All right, we'll go ahead and get started here. Good morning. Hope everyone is doing well. So first thing here, just a reminder, make sure that you've turned in the project that was due, technically yesterday, but kind of today, right? So it was due at midnight. So that French Revolution project, I'm going to have those in the gradebook by the weekend. So make sure that you have that turned in if you haven't already. But otherwise, today we are moving on a little bit because that was actually the last topic that is covered in Unit 2, which means that we have to do a test. So we're going to be doing I'll talk more about the test later in the hour because we're doing it a little different than how we've done tests before, considering the circumstances. So I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But as for what kind of to expect from today, we're going to start by doing a little bit of review. So let me pull up my kind of starting slide here. So we're going to start learning target here. We'll review topics covered in Unit 2 and then demonstrate our knowledge of topics by talking about the test. So we're going to play Gimkit, and I also have a Kahoot, and then we'll discuss the test and what that's going to look like, and we'll end class on that. So that's kind of the direction that we're going in today. So to start, we're going to actually start with the Kahoot because that will kind of give us an idea of what topics to expect on the test, maybe what to be on the lookout for. So let me pull up here. I am sharing my screen, I believe. Yes. Okay. So you can pull it up in a new tab or you can pull it up on your phone. Doesn't matter to me. Any device will work. But we have a quick Kahoot here, 10 questions talking about these topics that will show up on this next test here. So I'll give you guys a minute here to sign in, and then we'll play through the rounds. All right. We're 18. I believe that's everybody. Cool. So let's go ahead and start here. We'll go through the topics. I'll turn the music on a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And we'll talk about it. All right, so we got 10 questions here. First, what does Renaissance roughly translate to? All right, good. So remember, Renaissance roughly translates to rebirth. So we talked about kind of the decline of the feudal system and how the Renaissance was kind of the quote unquote rebirth of Europe, kind of rising up from this lowest low that it had reached. Good. All right, cool. Next question. What is an indulgence? Talking about Martin Luther here. or the topics surrounding Martin Luther, I guess, more accurately. All right, excellent. I see most of us got this one correct. So, an indulgence, pardon issued by the church to reduce a soul's time in purgatory. Remember, the church was trying to raise money to build things like these massive cathedrals and these awesome paintings of the Renaissance. And so, to raise money, they were selling these indulgences, which essentially people thought as a way that you could buy your way into heaven, and people like Martin Luther thought that that was pretty unfair. So good. All right, next question. What was Henry VIII's main reason for wanting to get a divorce from his first wife, Catherine of Aragon? All right, good. So remember, he wanted to get a divorce because he wanted a male heir, and he was blaming his wife for not giving him one yet. They had just had their first daughter, Mary, and he had his eyes on other women who he thought would give him the son that he wanted so badly, and he decided to break away from the Catholic Church in order to get the divorce that he wanted so badly. Good. All right, next question. The ultimate goal of early Portuguese explorers was to do what? So this was during the Age of Exploration. All right, excellent. So remember, they wanted to establish a trade route with India, and they wanted to go by water for a couple of reasons. First of all, it was faster than traveling by land, and two, their boats could carry much more cargo than any land caravan could possibly do. And so remember, Portugal decided to sail all the way around the southern tip of Africa in order to reach India by boat. So it was a long trip, but it ended up paying off for them. Good. All right. Next question. Which of these was most important in ending the feudal system in Europe? All right, good. So this one was a tougher question here. We talked about the kind of decline of the feudal system, but remember, rock bottom, the full-on end of the feudal system was the Black Death, because the Black Death took the lives of any person that caught it. It didn't matter what class you belonged to, and with such a large amount of the population dying, they simply couldn't keep the feudal system going in the way it had before. So the French Revolution and Enlightenment ideas were a few hundred years after the end of the feudal system, and the Renaissance was more so a result of the end of the feudal system rather than a cause of the end of the feudal system. So the Black Death is what we were looking for there. Good. Tougher question there. Next, 6 out of 10 here. The theory that a king gets their power directly from God is called what? Looking at a vocab word here. All right, good. So divine right is this idea that God chose the king directly for their power. It's kind of the reason that these kings could claim so much power, as they said that it was their divine right, or that God was kind of intervening and giving them their position, and kind of assumed that you shouldn't question the power of a king because of that, because they were chosen by God, and you don't want to question him or your king. Good. A couple more questions. Next, what were Martin Luther's 95 theses? All right, good. Martin Luther's 95 theses, remember he saw things like indulgences as practices that the church was doing that was going against the Bible. And so he wrote them down. Essentially, he had 95 things that he thought the church was doing wrong. And he took those 95 theses, he nailed them to the church door and essentially asked, for a response from the church. And hopefully they would try and make some changes to fix them. But as we remember, that is not what happened. And the church decided to excommunicate him instead. And a lot of people started to read what he had said and, start to agree with him that the church was doing some things wrong. All right. Couple of questions left here. Got 3 left here. So the Enlightenment focused on new ideas about what? All right, good. So the Enlightenment, we talked about that a week and a half ago. It was our first kind of virtual lesson, focusing on government and people's rights. So people's rights being things like John Locke, who said that people are entitled to life, liberty, and property no matter what. They're born with those rights. And then we had other government ideas like that the government should work for the common good, and that things like absolute monarchies might not work properly. They kind of helped lead to the French Revolution. So focusing on government here and people's rights. Good. Next, Spain hired Columbus to sail west because... All right, good. We talked about this one in class, that they didn't know North America existed, so it wasn't to find that. They already knew the Earth was round, and Columbus actually thought the Earth was smaller than it was. Columbus didn't really talk about finding any fables like the Fountain of Youth or things like that. He just thought he could make it to India faster than particularly Portugal, right? So their neighbor Portugal had went around Africa, and he said that he could make it faster by sailing west. And he lands in the New World, calls it India, calls the people Indians, but was definitely wrong about that. All right. I believe we have final question here. Yes, 10 out of 10. So the French Revolution saw the overthrow of what? All right, excellent. So the French Revolution saw the overthrow of the absolute monarch in France. They used those Enlightenment ideas to overthrow the monarch, right? They end up, chopping his head off with a guillotine. So you looked at that in your project, that the French Revolution was attempting to put these Enlightenment ideas to use, but didn't exactly succeed in all of those ways. But they did manage to overthrow the king through it.